Hi, I'm Donna Kallner. This is lesson 4 of the New Age Looping Basics e-course. In this lesson, we're going to take the needle chain that was used to begin the oval base in lesson 3 and make flat panels of looping fabric from it.
For this demonstration, the stitching element I'm using is a strip of recycled t-shirt fabric that was cut about 1/2 inch wide, and then I stretched it out, and that's what gives it the roll that makes it look more yarnish. To begin a flip turn panel, I simply make a needle chain just like the one you learned in lesson 3. When the chain is the length that I want, I make one more stitch and pull that tight to lock the chain. The needle chain's purpose, as in the oval base, is to create a live edge you can stitch into. It's a way to get started. It's a way to anchor the work at the beginning of a piece, and sometimes in the middle. Just as you did in the oval base, you reorient the needle chain and start stitching into it just as you normally would. Unlike the oval base, though, for a flip turn panel, when you reach the end of the chain, you don't increase at the end and continue around on the long side. Instead, you simply flip the piece over and continue stitching as if you were working in a continuous spiral, even though it's flat. Why not just stitch back the opposite direction without flipping the piece? You could, and it wouldn't be wrong, but when you try a sample doing that, you'll find a couple of reasons to love flip turns. With flip turns, you always advance in your normal direction, so your non-dominant hand is positioned to help with tension control. And some kind of magic makes all the stitches cross the same way, which is not the case when you work back and forth without flipping, assuming that you still pass the needle north to south while moving the opposite direction. Flip turn looping is not without challenges. The stitches along the edges tend to curl up, and finding the lag to make the last stitch on a row can sometimes be pretty interesting. When the edge looks goofy, use your needle to sort out the stitches from the lags on that part of the previous row. When in doubt, just try to be consistent. Let's take another look at finding the last stitch in a row, because that has a tendency to curl. You may need to get in there with your needle and sort it out to find the lag that you want to stitch into. You may have noticed that I did not trap the tail when I stitched across the needle chain in the flip turn panel. Unlike in the oval base, where I want to get that tail trapped and out of the way as soon as possible, I actually prefer to leave a tail in a flip turn panel. It helps me to reorient when I put the piece down. And this is definitely one of those things that way back in lesson 1 we practiced reorienting the piece after a break. You're going to want to do that with flip turn panels. It's very easy after a break. When you look at the piece again and you pick it up, you think, oh, okay, there's my working thread. And instead of stitching into the live edge that you've been working, you find yourself stitching up one of the sides of the panel. Still, that tail sticking out of there can be kind of confusing. I will not tell you how many times I've added thread onto the tail instead of the tag end of the working thread. So to help me keep track of what's what, I usually leave the tail and put a little knot in it at some point. That reminds me, oh, that's where I started. Increasing and decreasing in flip turn looping are really not any different than increasing and decreasing in other looping. There is, though, a slight tendency to have unintended decreases because you miss that last lag on a row. It's easy to do, and sometimes it's useful. You can use it intentionally as well, but you need to be aware that if you never catch that last lag, you're going to end up with a decrease that happens really, really fast. Still, it's a great tool for shaping. And keep in mind, you can work increases and decreases in the middle of a row as well as at the end. Here's what my sample looks like after working decreases at the end of a row to taper it down, and then using increases to reestablish the width of the piece. In the next video, I'll show you a sample project that uses flip turn panels to make a small table mat. I'll see you there.